The number one proven most effective form of birth control. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what it is. Sony's PlayStation 4. Now, there's no denying the PS4 has completely dominated the gaming market this console generation. The Xbox One had its blunders upon release, like forcing the Kinect on people, proposing always-on internet, and other shenanigans, but for the most part, Sony got the PS4 down to a science and has capitalized from the beginning of its launch, which was all the way back in November of 2013. So after 6 years, right? Yeah. Is the PS4, known informally as the PS4 Slim, still worth it? Stay tuned for an unboxing and review as well as my own thoughts about the realm of gaming. And don't worry ladies, I will also discuss whether your boyfriend or husband deserves one for Christmas. Spoiler alert, absolutely, 100%. Anyway, let's roll straight into the intro. You already know what's going on. I decided to get the 1TB PS4 with the 3 free games cause come on now, it's 3 free games. Regionally, you may have different bundles, so yeah, if you can, try to pick up a PS4 bundled in with a free game or two. Front and center you'll see PS4 branding along with the rated T through M rating for our 3 games along with our storage capacity and a picture of our device. On the top we have PS4 branding and on the back you get a bit more detail of the power of the PS4. Including the different services they offer, including PlayStation Plus, PlayStation View, and PlayStation VR, which is supported but of course is sold separately and is barely in its infancy. I guarantee you the PS5 or whatever they decide to call it will incorporate VR a lot more. For this, we'll need our trusty spatula knife, so just cut the box where the sticker is and we get trolled with the good old box within a box trick. Really, the outside is just a sleeve basically, and you'll find a much more boring white PS4 box that houses all the goodies. Here you won't need a knife, just lift open the flap and start exploring. First you'll find your power cable, and luckily we have no power brick. That is all found internally within the console. Next you have your extremely cheap one headphone headset, which is extremely bothersome and not comfortable at all. I'd seriously recommend getting a much better headset. Microsoft does beat out Sony here as at least their provided headset is somewhat comfortable. You do get a needed HDMI cable needed to plug into your TV. Next, we have what is at the heart of our entertainment system, the man with the plan, the one making all the moves, literally. You already know what it is. Without this, what even is a PS4? Your wireless DualShock 4 with an included micro USB cable needed to recharge that sucker. You'll have to flip an internal flap to reveal the best part though. You'll see that in this specific bundle, you get a physical copy of The Last of Us and 2 codes for the other games. Psych! You thought I was going to reveal the codes, huh? No sir, I actually want to play these games. You get the boring documentation including the product and warranty information guide and of course, the star of the show, housed within these cardboard containers to protect it during shipment. Remove the protective film covering it and there she is, your new best friend. Now taking a quick tour of the console, you get a mostly matte finish this time around with the PS logo on the top in contrasting glossy finish. On the front of the console you have yet again more PS4 branding towards the right with 2 USB ports spaced widely apart with a more glossier finish running right through them. To the left is your actual disc slot, where you insert your disc and is not a mechanical tray that comes out, which is a good thing. Sony branding towards the top, and your physical on-off buttons accompanied by the disc eject button. On the right, we don't have much but ventilation with your iconic PlayStation buttons, and what is cool is that they incorporated the circle for the optional stand you can purchase, which is really cheeky if you ask me. On the left, we have even more ventilation. On the back, would you guess? Even more ventilation with all of our I/O ports, which we will discuss in much greater detail later on. And on the bottom you have rubber feet designed with the PS buttons to provide stabilization if on a wooden or other hard surface, along with the PS logo right in the middle. So listen, there's this ongoing feud between Xbox and PS4 fanboys on which console is better. Luckily for you, I am pretty well versed on both and don't really game almost at all anymore. So if you're looking for unbiased information, you've come to the right place. I remember working at GameStop when both of these consoles were in their infancy and when both launched. It's crazy how much these two consoles have come, and especially the growing catalog of indie and AAA titles. We'll get the nerdy nitty gritty specs out of the way for my hardcore gamers and nerds, and then afterward, dweeb it down just a little bit so the rest of us can understand. Alright, first things first. Normally, you can find the PlayStation 4, the regular one, not to be confused with the PS4 Pro, which I already did a review on that. Check it out if you haven't. but typically you can find it for $299 in your typical jet black color with a 1TB hard drive, much better than the 500GB hard drive the PS4 debuted with. But as you saw, you can normally find the PS4 bundled in with a free game like Fortnite, The Last of Us, or God of War, just to name a few. It is dubbed the Slim PS4 because it is the direct predecessor to the original Fat PS4 that debuted in 2013. In terms of design, I like it a lot more. No more of those super sharp edges that can poke your eyes out, and instead are replaced with these rounder, smoother corners. It still is that angled parallelogram shape, but considerably lighter and dimension-wise has also shrinked. This is great for those with tight spaces in their entertainment setup. Normally the PS4 is meant to be laid down horizontally, but you can find various third-party stands or Sony's own first-party stand to set this thing up vertically. It can be set up vertically without the stand, although I wouldn't recommend it as it doesn't have a base to keep it stable and can easily be knocked over whenever you arrive home and cause an earthquake. It can be knocked down by your cat. The original big boy PS4 measured in at 27.5 by 30 by 5.3 centimeters and weighed over 6 pounds. Goddamn! While the new Slim PS4 now measures in at 26.5 by 26.5 by 3.8 centimeters in thickness and now took some thermogenic pills and now weighs in at a little over 4.6 pounds. The newer Slim PS4 also does with an entirely matte finish, whereas the original sported a healthy mix of glossy plastic with a matte finish. Just like almost every console in existence. No shade towards the Xbox One all digital. The slot loading Blu-ray disc drive is front facing so you can easily insert your game so you can quickly and easily relax and play to your heart's content. That is until your game has a software update. The PS4 Slim also sports physical buttons rather than touch capacitive touch buttons, which were a little pesky to deal with, as sometimes it wouldn't register and other times, for no apparent reason, would just eject my disc. Like, what the f***, man? As I mentioned, 2 USB ports can be found on the front and are now wider spaced so that you can more easily plug out your cables, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but if you have huge sausage fingers, you'll be grateful. In almost every respect, the newer, slimmer PS4 is better than the original. It's lighter, more compact, but at the detriment of your optical audio port now being removed. It's not a big deal for the majority of gamers, but for those who invested a ton of money in a grade A headset who use the optical audio plug now have to buy a separate adapter to use their headset. Granted though, most serious gamers will likely pick up the more powerful PS4 Pro anyway, but I mean, it is noteworthy to mention. We have our typical array of I/O ports in the back, including your standard figure 8 lead for powering the console, HDMI 1.4 port, the auxiliary port for the PlayStation camera, which you'll need if you want to take advantage of VR later, and gigabit Ethernet accompanied by your typical vents for airflow and ventilation to keep your console's internals running nice and cool to power at peak performance. And speaking of internals, the PS4 Slim rocks an 8-core x86 AMD Jaguar CPU, 8GB of GDDR5 RAM, and on the graphics end sports an AMD Radeon Graphics Core Next engine with 1.84 teraflops. The PS4 Slim supports 5 GHz 802.11 AC Wi-Fi and Bluetooth 2.1. You'll see that Bluetooth is used a lot in this device for certain headsets and especially your DualShock 4. The DualShock 4, for my non-gamers, is the controller. Come on now. The DualShock 4 did see a slight redesign but largely remains the same from when the console first launched. No one can deny that neither the DualShock 4 or Xbox One controller feels amazing in the hands. A lot of testing and science went behind the ergonomics of the controller and how the human hand naturally falls into place while playing, and the DualShock 4 is no exception. It is wireless, obviously, and unlike the Xbox One controller, does not need a set of AA batteries to power it on, and instead, by default, sports an internal 1000 mAh battery that allows you to power through several long gaming sessions before you have to recharge it with the provided micro USB cable that you attach straight into the console. You have your L2 and R2 buttons flanking towards the back, typically used for first-person shooters, your shoulder buttons being the R1 and L1 buttons. On the left, you have your D-pad. To the right, your touchpad, which is kinda gimmicky. Very few games take advantage of the touchpad and use it naturally rather than it just being a stupid excuse to use it. Share and option buttons, your 2 joysticks towards the bottom naturally resting right where your thumbs hover over, and on the right, your iconic Sony buttons consisting of square, triangle, circle, and X, each corresponding to different commands depending on the game that you're playing. You will also now see the light bar above the touchpad as well as the typical location towards the rear of the controller facing away from you with the micro USB port. This light is useful for the PlayStation camera to track movement, but is mainly used for aesthetics, like changing red if your character takes fire or something, or to differentiate players, for example being blue for player 1 and maybe turning red for player 2. But what is all this fancy talk all about without talking about games? After all, I would assume most of you are interested in picking this console up not for Spotify or to be an expensive Netflix machine, but to play games. You see, each console has its exclusives. For example, Xbox having its super popular Halo series being exclusive to Microsoft and titles like the God of War series being exclusive on the PlayStation 4. Historically, the PlayStation has had the better exclusives this console generation. And before you thumbs down this video, for the record, that's not my opinion, it's basically what I have seen and heard over the years. After all, I did work at GameStop at the very beginning of this console generation. At launch, and even extending for more than a year, there were very slim pickings when it came to exclusives, and not to mention there were hardly any good titles in general. Both consoles have amazing exclusives like Microsoft having Killer Instinct and Forza, while PlayStation having equally killer titles like The Last of Us, which to this day remains to be one of my all-time favorite games, and other killer series like the Uncharted series. Again, this is very subjective with both consoles having great exclusives, but luckily, most of the popular titles like Call of Duty and Fortnite are available on both. Ladies, just do keep in mind that in order for your man to play with the boys online, he will require PlayStation Plus. Multiplayer isn't free this console generation, but is a better bang for your buck as compared to Xbox Live Gold. PlayStation Plus varies in pricing. The total rip-off 1-month membership coming in at $10 per month, the 3-month costing $24.99, but the best value and the one I recommend, the year membership coming in at $60. You can either buy the little cards at retailers like GameStop or Best Buy with the scratch-off code, or purchase it directly through the PlayStation 4 with recurring payments. It does suck for those that remember the good old PlayStation 3 days with free multiplayer, but it does come with monthly free games. Most are indie titles, but occasionally they'll sprinkle in free older AAA title games absolutely free, so sometimes it pays off to check some of those games out as some are actual bangers. Inevitably, serious gamers will ask what's better, the PS4 Slim or PS4 Pro. That is a question that will be answered in a completely separate video where I compare and contrast the differences between the PS4 Slim and PS4 Pro, so subscribe right now with bell notifications so that you never miss a single one of my tech related content. I know buying a console is a big investment for a lot of us, and I just want all of my subscribers and viewers to be well versed when it comes to their purchasing decision. But in a nutshell, and what you need to know for the PS4 Slim is it is not as powerful as the PS4 Pro and does not support 4K gaming nor HDR. I get asked a lot, but bro, I have a 75-inch 4K HDR TV. What do you mean it won't scale up to 4K? Because that's not how technology works. It's like putting an engine from an '02 Honda Accord into a 2020 Bugatti Chiron and expecting it to go 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds. It's just not gonna happen. The PS4 Pro simply has a better CPU and GPU needed to provide and render for those extra resolutions, so you are stuck at 1080p, even when using a 4K TV. It isn't a big deal, especially for casual gamers and kids, as you likely won't even notice, but you do start to notice the lower resolution the closer you get to your TV, especially on really large TVs like a 75-inch TV or greater. For my serious gamers who love viewing upscaled content at native 4K and with minimal lag due to graphically intensive cutscenes or gameplay, you'll definitely want the extra power of the Pro. But for most people, the PS4 Slim is perfectly fine, and I'm just nitpicky because, well, I'm a tech nerd. What do you expect? So in conclusion, I hope you learned something. Whether you are a grandparent wanting to buy a console for your grandchildren, whether you want to ruin your relationship with your man, surprise your boyfriend or husband and show him that yes, you are willing to share him. That is, with a gaming console that 9 times out of 10, he will choose gaming with the boys over you, but that's okay, because I'm sure he puts up with the 2-ish hours you take to get ready, or whether you consider yourself a hardcore gamer. Whatever your case, I hope this video helped you decide whether this is the console for you or not. If it did, please drop a like as it helps the channel out tremendously, and comment down below whether you are Team PlayStation or Team Xbox. The PlayStation 4 Slim is simply a fantastic option, priced at $299 and will most likely be on sale for Christmas. If you can't find it for $249 or lower bundled in with a game or two, it should be a no-brainer. the PlayStation 4 is a fantastic console and you will still get a handful of years of non-stop fun from it because the rollout of the PS5 is rumored to be released in late 2020 or possibly even 2021. That's been it for me. As always, take care of yourselves and I hope everyone is enjoying preparing for the holiday seasons with your loved ones. Peace out, guys.